In this video, you'll see toilet installation tips. We'll go over closet flange problems, how to extend the flange, how to install the wax ring, set the bowl, and use tools that make this installation so much easier and faster. I'll also go over tips on how to prevent water leaks. Normally, your first step is to remove the toilet. So I turn the water off at the supply, flush the toilet, and pour LiquiLock into the bowl. This turns the water into a gel. I then remove the water supply and the nuts holding the bowl to the floor. You can see the LiquiLock has gel up, and that's awesome because you won't get any water all over the floor. And then use a Pick-Up-Stix to remove the toilet. I also remove the existing wax ring and put a flange cover kit over the closet flange to keep the sewer gas from coming up into the bathroom. That's an important step. Unfortunately, sometimes the closet flange is below the finished floor. That's not good. So I found the rough end, which is at 12 inches. I'm going to use a closet flange spacer with Latasil. Latasil is a sealant, flexible sealant. I apply that to the existing closet flange, bond my spacer to it, add my bolts, add more Latasil to the top of the first spacer, and bond a second one in place. By the way, I'm using bolts that have multiple snap-off points. They're awesome. And then make sure the bolts are at the rough end that I need. So again, 12 inches. And I also get the rough end off of the wall, not the baseboard. And make sure that the bolts are nice and tight. And I'm going to be using those for the toilet, so that's important. So these spacers are above the finished floor, which is good. Sometimes I have the opportunity to add a new closet flange. In that case, I chamfer the top and the bottom of my riser pipe. I set it down in the closet bend, and then I get the distance between my ring and the finished floor. That distance is the amount of pipe that I need to cut off. Again, I chamfer the pipe. This is important because it's going to allow me to solvent weld everything properly. Also, I use 4 to 5 revolutions of the right cement on the pipe as well as the fitting. So always use the right cement. In this case, ABS, medium black cement is what I'm using for the ABS pipes. I then solvent weld the closet flange down to the finished floor, and I'm using a diamond bit along with cooling fluid to make a hole in my tile in the locations in the closet flange. Also, I'm using Tapcons to secure it through the tile floor and made sure it was level. Once the closet flange is taken care of, I set my wax ring on top of it. I always add the wax ring to the closet flange, not the bowl, because it can't fall off the closet flange. I then compress the bowl up against the wax ring, and here's a critical step. I just push the bowl down. I don't really rock it too much, just goes straight down on top of the floor. I then add my plastic washer, followed by my metal washer, and then my nuts on both of the closet flange bolts. I tighten those down, and I do this in a staggered pattern. So a little bit on the right, a little bit on the left, and then I make sure that the bowl doesn't rock. And at that point, I just snap off the closet flange bolt. I love these snap off bolts. They're awesome. So just make sure everything is nice and tight, and then I add a little caps. Once that's done, I go ahead and tackle the tank. By the way, if you're doing a bathroom remodel and you need help, join our Platinum membership where you can watch full tutorials like this and make your project easier over at Home Repair Tutor. And make sure that the fill valve and the flush valve are nice and tight. I have my gasket onto the flush valve, and then these bolts, they come with rubber gaskets. The gaskets go on top of the bolts and then down into the toilet tank. Really important to make sure they're seated properly. I then set the tank on top of the bowl. This tank has 3 touch points up against the bowl. I'll show that in a moment. I then simply tighten down on the nuts and the bolts until the touch points are touching the top of the bowl. I don't tighten it any further because I don't want the porcelain to crack. I then always recommend getting 2 sizes of the water supply lines. I used a 9-inch size here. I hand tighten it, then I tighten it another quarter to half turn on top of the valve. I then flush out the valve. And then here's also a mistake that a lot of people make. You only have to hand tighten this water supply line to the fill valve. I then turn on the shutoff valve and I check for any leaks between the bottom of the tank and the top of the bowl. I then flush it and I check for any leaks between the bowl and the floor. If I don't have any, I can move on to the next step. The last thing I do is silicone the base of the toilet bowl to my tile floor. I always shop vac that area, and then I use Latasil. This is 100% silicone and it has microban in it. I then tool that joint using soapy water and a caulking tool that's awesome for this type of project. And then in the end, it looks really awesome, and it's sanitary because it's preventing any kind of urine or feces from going between the bowl and the floor. I hope these toilet installation tips helped you out. If they did, give this video a thumbs up. And if you're doing more home improvement projects and need help, subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next video.